When you're ready.
Okay. All right, well, welcome. This is our November PHS meeting, and Bob and I are here. We have our mayor on Zoom, and Cindy Rickers can't be with us today. So let's begin with the minutes. I think we need to go back and put those minutes together. I think we could.
So we'll table that then?
Yeah.
So that was a meeting, I think only you and Cindy were at that meeting.
Right.
I'm not sure if Samantha was there.
Right.
It's not.
Right. It was just me, Cindy, and Michelle.
Did you make any decisions or have any substantive conversations?
I'll have to look back.
Because the minutes could just simply
Be the agenda.
say like, this was the agenda, this is who was here, we didn't actually discuss anything, and,
Right.
you know, and then we could approve
That's
that.
true, yeah, like make life a little easier.
In fact, when I emailed you later the day to ask about
Yeah.
the meeting, both you
Yeah.
and Cindy said we didn't discuss anything. Samantha wasn't there, you weren't there, really. There were no minutes. So I think that could be the minutes.
Well, that's up to you all.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
okay.
that's just a suggestion.
Well, maybe we should do that. Just
Yeah, I think that's a
so we
pretty
don't
good
have to-
suggestion, yeah.
We don't lose track of it.
Hey, you are not morning.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and just approve the, like, minimal.
So basically approve the agenda and we'll just add a sentence to it that no decisions or recommendations were made at the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I could put it in a document for you, although when I do it, it seems like it gets all garbled up on the...
Well, if you
Okay,
could at least do that, Bob, we could,
Clean it up.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'll do it.
Great. Okay, so then next we'll go to public comment. Let's see, could there be any comment that you'd like to make, Mr.
Since
Constantine?
I'm here, yeah, sure, I have a couple comments. Nothing in particular except for that you guys really need to listen or reach out to the public to find out, before you pass things, to get a pulse on the community. A lot of these things are done just by committee members and then goes up to the council and gets passed without any public involvement.
That is not true, Mr. Constantine. I'm happy to send you all the outreach to borough. If you have a particular topic in mind, any given topic, I'm happy to send you the outreach that borough has done, not just,
Nothing's come to my house.
okay, well, I'm sorry that I didn't personally knock on your door and tell you that we were doing something. The borough cannot send a personal invite to every resident every time we talk about something.
You don't even give there's going to be the police meeting, at least there's representatives from the public on that committee, not just
All our
council.
other committees have representatives from the public as well. Shade Tree Commission, Environment Advisory Committee, all the things where all these ideas start from.
Infrastructure does not.
The park, no, those are committees of council. The Parking Study Task Force is which had
And
residents on it, is where everything originated.
I like this where we're having a back and forth because your format doesn't provide for a back and forth during these type of meetings.
Morning, Bill.
Morning, Bill.
Morning.
Hey,
So, okay, any other comment that you would like to make?
Again, I'm happy to talk with you outside the meeting. I've encouraged that several times.
You put things on the agenda and then they pass.
Okay, or you can just speak into the void, whatever you want, Mr. Constantine.
So, okay, so thank you for your comment. Bill, would you like to make any comment?
No.
Okay, and I don't think we have anyone in Zoom. So, next we would go to the meeting schedule. So this is where we are. This is a difficult pattern that we're in, where we have a late Thursday council meeting and then an early Friday public health meeting. So I think we had identified an alternative time. I don't know if that would work for the committee. the second Friday, right now, we have the parking at 8 a.m. and then public health could be at 9 a.m. And then it would, wouldn't follow public health meeting.
Well,
I mean, borough council meeting.
maybe what I'd throw out there for you is, given that I think the parking committee is going to be wrapping up soon, maybe we could say and we'd have to coordinate parking as well, and both of you are on parking as well.
Right.
Is that, the parking committee would be probably done, sometime, January maybe. And then maybe January is when this committee would start meeting the second Friday at 8 a.m.
Okay, let's do that.
Yeah, and then that way when the borough does the annual meeting ad, we can just take care of all that then instead of do a bunch of other legal ads we have to pay for.
Okay, I like that.
So this wouldn't start till January?
Yeah, would that work for you, Mayor?
Yes.
I have one more work session.
Yeah, I have, because it won't work for me in December, but it sounds like that's moot.
Right, okay.
8 a.m., yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be the second Friday, 8 a.m.,
Starting in January.
starting in January.
Okay.
Okay. All right, traffic concerns. Are there any updates there?
Yeah, let me see what was my credit to Michelle Carroll, my assistant, who put together the packet for this meeting. Is something that I had kind of done solo in the past, and I give her a lot of credit for putting together this one solo, but shame on me. I read through the memo from our code enforcement officer and our traffic engineer, but I just want to pull the packet up so I have that fresh for myself and the committee.
Yeah, take your time.
I believe at your meeting last month, the traffic engineer had recommended looking at the vegetation and the sight lines at both of those intersections. And so our code enforcement officer went out there and took some pictures, and this is in the packet. He didn't see any, at least at the time, maybe it got trimmed between the time of the engineer looking at it and him looking at it, but he didn't observe any encroachment on the right-of-way or anything that would warrant a violation in either one of those intersections. So falling back on the memo from our traffic engineer, what else did he recommend we could consider? The other option he had, other than making sure the vegetation trimmed back, was consider parking restriction signage closer to the intersection on Conway. And let's see here. And so that,
Sabine or at Price or both?
for both.
Okay.
And then he said if we couldn't do that, or if that didn't work, then at that point would be when we would consider multi-way stop signs.
Okay.
So I would recommend that we.
He actually said that if that doesn't work, consider stop signs.
Well, he said vegetation and then consider moving where people can park, maybe a car. He didn't give a specific distance, but when me and him and Jeff, our public works manager, have met at similar situations, we basically talked about basically one car length moving the parking, the no parking area back.
So if there were stop signs there, that would be done anyway, wouldn't it? Probably.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's true.
So it just sounds like sort of that's the next step for dealing with those intersections. And then
See how
people still want stop signs.
Yeah.
Because that's been like a cry for stop signs there for forever, really.
I have one question about process. I know if we want a traffic change at a particular intersection, people on the block have to request it. What if you don't live on that block and you see a recurrent problem?
Actually, I don't think the process says you have to live on that block. I think it just says 3 property owners in the borough.
Oh, okay, okay. All right. I'm talking about the intersection of Forest and Woodbine. Yeah, Woodbine. It's a little difficult to see when you have to make a turn to the left. It's a difficult turn.
So, Mayor, I would ask you. This is the first I remember hearing about this.
Yeah.
So, I think we all should be held to the process. And it's actually what I made with these Conway ones. One of those originally came from Councilmember Fortner, and I gave her the same spiel.
Sure.
Yeah, you can find 2 other property owners who'd like the borough to also look into that and let us know. We can certainly put that on a future PHS agenda.
Perfect. Thank you.
Out of curiosity, I'm trying to figure out where Forest and Woodbine cross, like someplace in heaven, maybe.
Now, is it,
Oh, it does, they do cross. Oh, of course. Oh, yeah, the top of the, right. Okay, forgive me, Mayor. I know where it is now. Thanks, John. Of course.
Okay. So now we would go ahead, right, to downtown trash. We've had different conversations about what could be done. We've tried. I think the big change that happened, and Samantha, you can tell us, maybe it was 2-3 months ago, was the Public Works started to do additional pickups downtown. And this is in direct response to the concerns we were hearing. So the borough is doing everything it can to remove trash, as quickly as possible, like in addition to the Republic scheduled pickups.
Yeah, and I mean, we've tried, educating the businesses about, outreach to them about, how to properly dispose of trash. We put stuff in the, weekly email and that sort of thing for residents about, trash and sanitation. I think at a certain point, the onus, the borough certainly wants to do what it can, and I think we're doing everything we can, but at a certain point, the onus is on people to take personal responsibility for how they're, disposing and securing their trash.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And sorry, the one follow-up thing from the last meeting was there was an idea, I'm not sure where it originated, that like our public works department would get like an exterminator license, and they don't have that background, and that's not a. I would strongly advise against that. It's not a feasible option, and it would cause a lot of potential liability for the borough.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so, and we have that, your memo in the packet.
Most residents hire their own exterminators.
Right.
Yeah, that'll be my recommendation, yeah.
They do it that's what they do. That's what they should be advised to do.
Yeah, and there's, there have been concerns raised about the Elmwood Church property, rodents, this kind of thing. But, just so the public knows, the borough is doing everything it can. It's up to the property owner.
Our code officer has been out there to inspect that property multiple times. The one time he was there where like 2 rats were saw, he made the property owner bring an exterminator out there and get verification that services were rendered.
Mm-hmm. And that was maybe going back a few months.
Yeah. So again, if people see things, definitely let us know. We can follow up with the property maintenance code where applicable to try and look into it.
So we have that notice in the weekly email of what to do if any neighbors notice rodents they can report through MICA, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Samantha. So, let's see. Next we have the fire meeting. Next fire meeting is, I think, next Monday.
Monday the 7th at 8 p.m.
Okay. And I was originally thinking I could go, but I think I need to stay late for a work meeting. So, Bob, I don't know if you're free at all.
No, they get you go.
Okay, and Cindy maybe
Right, I think she might still be on her
on her
trip.
trip. So we may have to not be there for that one. Bill, unless I can get there, I'll try to get there, but if I have this meeting that keeps me late at work,
Okay.
I'll miss it.
Thank you for letting us know.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we want to try to get there, but we may not make it to everyone.
By the same token, thank you, Bill, for, coming to these meetings.
Well,
Okay, so the EAC update, we do have this memorandum of understanding that council agreed to, and that has been signed by both parties. And I'm very grateful to Samantha and John Walco for reviewing that, and to the EAC and to council. And basically, this just means that we can explore the possibility.
Well, yeah, and to be more accurate, it means that the working group can explore
Right.
the possibility.
Right, that's really the
Yeah,
great thing about this, is there's a group of people that want to make sure this is all legal and viable, and it's not additional work, for Samantha, we're hoping, so, yeah. Okay, so I would expect that we would hear something in a few months, basically. That would be the timeline. And at that point, there would be a kind of draft contract that we could review and consider. Okay, let's see. The anything on the I kind of have this shade tree. I put shade tree together with EAC in my mind. But the shade tree permit process is in place, right, for removing trees.
It is, yeah.
There's one related concern to me that I could raise. I mean, it's come to me from neighbors that there are some properties that are like absentee landlords or absentee owners. So nobody's living in the property and the property's not being maintained. So this extends to the trees, and I just wonder what we can do in cases like that.
So I guess it depends. Are we talking about trees in the right-of-way potentially, or
Yeah.
trees? Okay, if it's a tree in the right-of-way, then if someone sends a request to the Shade Tree Commission, under the Shade Tree Ordinance, they have the power. I'd have to look at the specific language. Basically, if a tree, we could have the borough arborist look at a tree, and if a tree is found to be a threat to public health and safety, basically if it seems like branches are going to fall off of it or the tree itself is going to collapse, then we can mandate that the property owner remove the tree.
Okay. And we could potentially, if the property owner is not responsive, we could have it removed and build it.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that, because I know that applies to at least a couple properties on the south side.
And I apologize, did we, if it was intentional, that's fine. Do we need to skip 8 and 9?
No, I just put Shade Tree together with EAC.
Oh,
Like
sorry,
that's
okay,
why I jumped.
now, okay, sorry, now I'm with you.
But let's go back to where we should be. Okay, so the Police Advisory Committee did meet, and they elected their chair and vice chair. And it seems the chair is Rebecca Starr, and the vice chair is John Gonzalez. and they have the data, I think, that they have requested. So they're reviewing that. They have the charge from our committee. So I'm not sure if they've decided to meet monthly or quarterly, but I can check in with them. I've asked them to send us a memo. You know, even if it's piecemeal, they might consider pieces of their charge. They don't have to, right? They don't have to.
Rob, I believe
Yeah.
they're meeting every 2 months, and I want to say their next meeting is December 6th.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. So, yeah, so I think the December meeting would be probably their first meeting where they really can deliberate and consider some of the data that they've been reviewing. And then maybe in February, they'd be in a position to make a recommendation. I'm just thinking of the timeline of things. So, but I'm very glad to have that committee and all those volunteers. You know, I think that's going to really help us because, as you know, we haven't had the time to really study some of that material. So I think we're in good shape, and it's working okay with the office, as, like from your point of view, Samantha. Like,
For the most part, we've had to smooth out a few things, but for the most part, it's working. Yeah.
okay, so let me know if there are things we could do to make it easier.
Sure.
All right, so then we have hiring police safety personnel. So is there anything we need to discuss? I know we just approved the job description for the police chief, and that will be, I guess, distributed next week. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm not gonna have time today to do that. So, yeah, next week that advertisement will go out and we'll start, seeing who all we get, and council can go from there on that position.
Okay, so we would just, well, we can discuss the process. I'm just thinking it could take, do we have a due date or deadline?
We do not actually.
Okay,
Yeah. So, I mean that might be something that with council to discuss is when we want to, or I don't know, it might just be applications will be evaluated as they're received.
right, okay.
I'm open to feedback on that.
Rolling
Yeah.
applications.
Okay,
That's a good way to do it, actually, this time.
I think for this position, I mean, yeah, given that we want someone sooner than later, and given that we're looking for a somewhat specific skill set for this position, if someone, who credibly meets that, rolls through, no need to keep them waiting necessarily.
okay. And we also approved last night the resignation of Officer Dutton, who's moving to Radnor. And we have the process through
Yeah.
self-service, right? So that's kind of underway.
Yeah, I'm working with the Civil Service Commission to find a new officer to replace Officer Dutton's position.
Okay. All right, so Shade Tree Commission, we kind of discussed already. We approved the saldo, or we advertised the saldo last night.
Yeah, and so following that adoption, I spoke with the Shade Tree Commission about the plant list.
Yeah,
They want to, for new construction projects, want to, limit what sort of, well, limit isn't necessarily the right word. It's a pretty long list, but, just rule out some problematic plantings and future stuff, and we'll get that ordinance done once the saldo is approved. So that'll all be good for future saldo applications.
okay, great, because those two work together, the landscape ordinance. Okay.
What's the timing for that?
For the saldo?
No, for the second thing.
Well, it kind of depends on the saldo. My hope, again, we'll have to see what public, input and feedback and reviews we get on the saldo. From Planning Commission, our residents on the Planning Commission, Montgomery County Planning Commission, and then any, borough residents who might have feedback on that. But if council approved the Saldo by the end of the year, the landscape ordinance would then follow in January for council to consider.
So it's just in the queue.
Yeah. And basically, as soon as once council's in a place where it approves the Saldo, the next item will then be to give consideration to the updating the landscape ordinance,
Okay.
which again would be for new construction. We're not, not going around everyone's yard in the borough and telling them what they can and can't plant.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I guess we go to, well, we have two items left, the plastics ordinance discussion and then the police crime reporting, and if there's any update on that from the mayor. But before we get to that, I'm wondering if, before we move off the EAC and Shade Tree, is there anything related to the EV charging that we should need to discuss in our committee, or is that just kind of moving
No,
ahead?
I think given that council last night kind of cleared the funding for it in the 2023 budget, I don't think there's any further decision or discussion for this committee to have on that topic.
Okay. All right, so the plastics ordinance, we had some communication with our solicitor to see if the plastics ordinance could be updated in any way. And, as you know, we were the first to do an ordinance like that in the state. And then since then, Radnor and other communities have done something similar, but they've actually upped the ante in different ways. So we don't have to figure out the specifics in this meeting, but it's something we wanted to kind of put on our radar to see over the next few months if we could sort out, what might be viable and consider an update to the ordinance. So, for example, our current ordinance speaks to plastic bags and plastic straws, but we could expand it to include styrofoam, which is something that we could discuss.
Right, and just to clarify for the record and all that, people oftentimes refer to our ordinance as a plastic ban. However, the current iteration of the ordinance is actually a fee for disposable plastics.
Right. Right, but some other
places
communities
do
now are doing a ban, so we could think about if there are any changes we want to make to that.
Sure.
And what would be a good process? Maybe we could review it, before the next meeting, Bob, Cindy, and I.
I don't know. Leave it up to you. I think the discussion on this is relative. I think there's only a couple decision points to make, and that, do we want to add any additional, disposables to it, such as styrofoam, and do we want to continue just charging a fee for those disposables? Well, not the borough charging a fee, the borough requiring the business owner to charge its customers a fee for those disposables, or do we want to do a ban? Yeah.
Okay.
So I think there's really just two decision points. And so I think in a reasonable time frame and during a committee meeting, we could talk through that, and I could try to find, I will find those other municipal examples that you mentioned, Rob, and see, maybe put together a little table showing what materials, other places include and don't include, and whether they have a ban or a fee, and if they have a fee, what their fee amount is, and we can see where we kind of fall in that range.
Okay, that's great. I have some things I'll send you as well.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And then probably something as well to involve, to let the NBA know about, and that way in case if any of their members have any input or concern.
Okay. All right, good. So then the last item is the police update, crime reporting. You can see in our packet for this meeting that we have, let's see, monthly police report. And this one is dated September. So I don't know, Andrea, is this something that you want to speak to? Because I know you've been in communication with the department, of course, but also with residents. Maybe it was just one resident who requested more transparency in kind of crime reporting.
It was one resident. There was a little bit of between the transition of Chief Gallagher and the sergeant, the crime reports. The crime reports was something that Chief Gallagher had started to do. Prior to that, we never had monthly crime reports in the borough. And he did it, and it's a nice information piece, so people kind of have a general sense of what was going on. The chief stopped doing it in the transition to his new job, and Sergeant Fernaccio picked up some of the slack and presented one for last month. I'm going to talk to the sergeant to see if we can do something similar for it was a slightly different format when he did it. I'll talk to the sergeant and see if we can do that going forward and get it to the office in time to have it in the packet for the monthly meetings.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. So the plan would be to have, I think you mentioned this in an email to me, that the plan would be to have the report in the packet for public health and safety, and then it would go into the monthly business meeting packet. Is that right?
That's my proposal.
Oh, yeah, that was not something I had mentioned, but.
Okay, that was from Smith, I guess.
That was part of that email from the other day with the mention about the bike patrol reporting as well. So what happens with my reports, just so we're all on the same page here, the manager and treasurer report, they go to finance and administration, who kind of looks at them in detail, and then they're submitted to council as FYI at the business meeting. And what I'm proposing, especially if we're changing the meeting date of this meeting to be a little bit later in the month, is that the police report, Mayor, would be completed in time for the PHS meeting, especially if it's the second Friday of the month and not the first Friday of the month. And then if we have if there's anything new or the police want to point out about it, we can have an opportunity to talk about that here. And then again, for the council business meeting, it would just be more just kind of an FYI, any specific question kind of thing.
So you need it prior to how soon before the PHS meeting?
Yeah, to be fair to the police department, I don't, my usual protocol is to ask yourself the Friday before the meeting, but even with PHS being the second Friday of the month, I would bet that would probably be a very onerous request to ask them to have it done by the first Friday. So I would just say maybe if it could be done 24 hours before the meetings, that way it could get put in the packet
to be safe by the Wednesday. That would be.
By end of day Wednesday would be great, yeah.
I will request that of the sergeant.
It might be, to be fair, if there's a month where the second Friday is the 8th or something like that, again, maybe we have to figure something out there, but that's kind of what I was thinking.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. And
Yep.
And also, I know that we had that update on communication strategies and different things. So I think everything is sorted, right?
The memo for that I'll have ready to present at the December PHS meeting.
Okay.
And again, my thanks to our professional staff for giving me some advice. I put that together. Bill, our acting EMC, and Fire Marshal, who's here with us this morning, the mayor, Rob, who is chair of PHS, our council president, and police sergeant, all met with me to give me good feedback on what that policy should look like.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, well, I think that brings us to the end, unless there's anything else, Samantha, that we should discuss.
I would advise against that because that would require changing the agenda.
Okay. All right, well, that concludes our meeting then. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Rob.
You actually do technically need to vote to adjourn.
Oh, we know.
Yeah.
Oh,
That we adjourn.
Thank you.
Good to see you guys.
See ya.
And John, for real, if you want to schedule time to chat with me, I would really love to chat with you because you have a lot of good ideas.
The trash is the one thing, I mean, it's still not fair.